We're just a week or two away from the Atlantic hurricane season getting very, very active. I'm Mike Naso with the latest tropical update. Now, what I mean by that is we've gone through a record breaking number of tropical storms. Arthur all the way to Kyle. Now, Kyle is the earliest forming K named storm since 2005 with Katrina, and that was August 24th. We beat the record by 10 days. That is not a good sign. As far as hurricanes, we've only had two, Hannah and Isaias, but they've both made U.S. landfall. That is not a good sign. And the conditions that are anticipated right at the peak of hurricane season in the end of August through mid-September, they look very, very ripe. So we're waiting on Laura, and then we're going to get down this name list. And right now, the forecast officially is to exhaust this name list. And if we exhaust it, we then move to the Greek alphabet, and that hasn't happened in 15 years. Now, what do we expect as far as climatology? Climatologically speaking, the peak of hurricane season is September 10th. Right now we're August 14th, 15th, we're right here. We've got all this to go in 3 or 4 weeks. And given how much activity we've seen so far, and the hits on the United States, that's a bad sign, okay? So enjoy this quiet while it lasts, because it ain't going to last much longer. The way I see it right now, the Atlantic is covered in gasoline, and we're just waiting for the match. Now, when we take a look out there today, we do have two tropical storms. We have Tropical Storm Josephine, which is sitting right here to the northeast of the Lesser Antilles, and it has some wind shear to deal with, and it's moving on off towards the west-northwest. It is expected to turn in the general direction of Bermuda, but weaken and not become a hurricane. And then on the top edge of your screen here off the east coast, we have Kyle, and Kyle should be moving along with the westerly flow, and even though it could strengthen a little, shouldn't become a hurricane either. And so both of these storms should remain out at sea, but these could be the last two weak storms before we really get into it, because right now we've only had two hurricanes, both Category 1s. The official forecast right now calls for a handful of major hurricanes. So there's a lot on the way, guys. There really is. Here's the latest on Josephine as of 11 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. It was at 18.3 north, 57.4 west, winds of 45. It's moving west-northwest quickly at 16. And again, that pressure is around 1,005, 1,006 millibars. And it's moving off west-northwest. It should eventually turn northwest, north, and then northeast. Bermuda, you are in the cone, but by then, we could be seeing Josephine dissipate, which would be very good news. Again, it could get close enough here to the islands to cause a little bit of disruption, and so even though it should pass far enough to the northeast of the leewards, there could be some locally heavy rainfall in the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico as Josephine passes by to the northeast, and that could cause isolated minor flooding in Puerto Rico through Monday. So if you're there, watch it, because as the tropical storm moves to the north, you could get a little bit of flow here that could cause rain over the islands in Puerto Rico. Overall, Josephine shouldn't be a problem. Likewise with Kyle. Kyle's at 38.3 north, 70.0 west. Again, 45 miles an hour, 1,005 or 6 millibars. They're literally almost the identical intensity. It's moving east-northeast at 16, and the wind field here is off to the south. So the winds aren't affecting Bermuda, and they're not affecting Cape Cod, and it should continue to move pretty much east-northeast and then straight east and be out of here by Monday, although it could strengthen a little bit here just as it leaves the Gulf Stream waters. Right now you can see that the winds, again, are not affecting areas of Cape Cod, so we don't have to deal with it, but if you were a boat or a ship out that far, you could be in for some rough, troppy seas and nasty weather. Here's a very cool satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Kyle. Before the sun went down, see this spin right in there where I circled? That is the center of Kyle. Watch it there as the sun went down. So most of the bad weather is off here on the eastern side, and that's because of these westerlies here is going to be caught up in the mid-latitude westerly flow, and that's going to just stretch it out like a piece of old bubble gum and pull Kyle off to the east-northeast. Nevertheless, it's still a tropical storm, and like I said, the last time we reached the K storm this early was way back in the old days of 2005, and that was a storm named Katrina. Of course, Kyle is not going to be like Katrina, and hopefully we don't have anything this year that rivals that hurricane season. That was a really epic season. It's scary that we're reaching the storms faster than then, but the earlier storms like Dennis and Emily, they had a little bit more oomph. But still, Hannah and Isaias were nothing to mess around with. You can see the wind shear, as I mentioned, with Kyle, again, pushing it off towards the east-northeast. Very high wind shear here in front of Josephine. It's a very unfavorable wind shear pattern right now. These winds are kind of snaking through the Caribbean into the Atlantic, and that is unfavorable, and then off the east coast. So even though we have storms, it's going to cut the head off Josephine and slide Kyle off. However, part of that is the activity in the eastern Pacific. We've had a burst of activity, but that will eventually propagate into the Atlantic right in time for that peak of the season. Dr. Gray, the late great Dr. Gray, he always said August 20th. August 20th, a switch turns on, and we're still about 5 or 6 days away from that. So it's coming, guys. It really is. You can see the satellite imagery here of the entire Atlantic, our two storms. Kyle off to the north, stretching out here, going to move out to sea, and Josephine blowing up a little better, should remain north of the islands and then not be a big problem as it gets close to Bermuda. Nothing else really. There's some scattered showers here in the central Atlantic. I don't see anything there yet. This system here is likely to become a hurricane in the Pacific. You can see what we have out there right now. We have a tropical depression. This should become a tropical storm. I believe the next name is Fausto. And then this has a high chance of development, probably moving away. And then this system, not as good. It's moving into cooler waters. But this one here that I mentioned, south of Costa Rica, is looking a lot better. And this could become a major hurricane, but it would probably stay offshore of Mexico, at least for the short term. If you're in the Baja, you'd want to watch. Nevertheless, like I said, Fausto is the next name, and then I believe Genevieve and Hernan. So we could be dealing with a couple of storms in the Pacific, and that creates a flow, remember, like that is unfavorable in the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf. So that's good for us here in America. However, once this favorability moves into the Atlantic by August 20th, August 30th, we could be in for a lot of problems. Over Africa right now, there's a very impressive tropical wave. We'll see if this does anything as it moves off. But I'm telling you guys, we go through these little lulls. Remember, we had Hannah, we had Isaias. In 2017, we didn't get Harvey until about August 24th. And then by September 10th, we had Harvey, Irma, Jose, Katia. By late September, we had Lee, Maria, Hurricane Nate. Remember? It was insane. It happens like that. Boom, 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 boom. In these busy hurricane seasons, and that's probably what we're looking at here. So, like I said, be prepared, be ready, because what we're seeing right now with the heavy rainfall over Africa, the high sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, the already active named storms, 2 hurricanes hitting America before early August, everything seems primed and ready to go for a very nasty Atlantic hurricane season. Hopefully we don't have more storms hitting land, but we've already had 2. So I'm Mike Naso, keeping an eye on the tropics, and stay tuned.